Hello and welcome to the Philippines. How much should you pay for rent in the Philippines? That's the question today. Better question might be, how much can you spend for rent? What is your budget? And I strongly suggest that you sit down and make a very detailed budget based upon some of my cost of living videos and the cost of living videos of others, and take into account your lifestyle, what you want, what you need, what you want, what are your goals, what are your desires, and add all that in. And I strongly recommend that you understand that it's probably 97.5% accurate that you're going to spend more money here than you think you're going to spend after you put everything down on paper. I did it. I watched lots of the videos about what people were spending here. I set limits on what I wanted to spend, and it didn't take long for me to understand that I would have to change my lifestyle a little bit to fit within those parameters. And I decided that I was going to spend that extra money. And I probably average about 1,100 US dollars a month here. There are a few people who have the financial success and they have money in the bank and a good pension, and they can afford the higher end places and larger places like here in Mandani Bay. And it's my guess that the majority of people who come here or think about overseas retirement, their budget, their pension is probably anywhere from $800, $900, $1,000 a month on up to maybe $1,800 a month, something like that. So you have to be a little more careful with your money. One thing about the Philippines is there are many options available. You have many islands, over 7,000 islands. Really, you're only going to be concerned with 11 to 20 of those islands, probably. And I've done a video, for instance, not so long ago about Bohol, and I have a special playlist just about Bohol Island, which is quite big, has a number of decent-sized towns, and you can move to the province. The term province here generally means country, even though every place in the Philippines is a province of some sort or in a province. And if you want to live in a city, Manila, one of the I think it is the most densely populated city in the world, has many different business type districts where you're in more of a modern area, modern buildings, modern high rise condominiums, and you can avail of those. Makati is one area, and other areas as well, several areas in Manila area. So you have a choice, and you can go with the very high end or the middle class, the middle price places, or the lower end. You can find those. And sometimes to find the lower end, you need to seek out Filipinos to help start asking about what's available in the area. But you have, when I first came here in 2015 and started doing videos and told people what I was paying in the Cebu city area, they say, "You're nuts! You can save so much money by moving to the province, moving out to the country." Well, that would be a possibility, and you can do that. Some people are concerned about being close to the better hospitals. That wasn't a big concern. My biggest concern was, what would I do once I'm out in the country saving money? I would, unless I had a farm or a big garden or was some kind of business or something, I would get very bored very quickly, I believe. Um, you can walk along the beach. You can go down to the beach and read uh, for a long time, but sooner or later you're going to want to do something else. Uh, you do have the cleaner air generally. One thing about the city, you do get pollution. You probably get more noise. the place I'm presently living in Cebu City. I thought it was going to be one of the quietest places I've lived in yet. And this is my fifth place I've lived in 4 years. And it's turned out to be the noisiest place with outside noise, dogs barking, and guy selling food on his motorbike with some crazy whistle going off, and a very, very noisy church next door, a bar about 4 blocks away that they're starting to build. They have a rooftop area with a lot of noise at night for a couple hours. They're starting to put a wall up there, so I'm hearing less of that. Now I'm going to give you some hints and suggestions. Part of it's based on my experience. A lot of it is based on what I've heard from other expats who've come here and people who are better negotiators than I am. And sometimes being in a good position, for instance, having cash money in your pocket, you can negotiate a better deal. I know a couple of people who have, let's just say, for instance, a person wanted 12,000 pesos a month to rent a place, and they wanted a 6-month lease. Well, the guy had the money. The two different people that I know of, they had the money. They offered, and the guy wanted 2 months deposit plus 1 month up front, so 3 months, 36,000 to start with. And the guy offered 10,000 pesos, 2,000 less, about 40 US dollars less a month, and offered to pay it all up front. Now, of course, you want to be sure that you're really going to be happy in that place for 6 months, or will tolerate it. And I will tell you, 6 months goes by very rapidly here unless you're in a really miserable place. But if you have something to offer the landlord, you can offer, or you can oftentimes get a better deal. And you might offer a little bit longer lease. You might offer to do something in return. I have a number of people. I have told them that I would rent their place, and because of my channel, I would help them rent it out at the time that I would leave there. And one particular person, I would have rented their place long term, but they would not drop the price, nor would they agree to the concessions that I was willing to give. So I'm not there, and I actually found a better place at a bigger and better place at a much lower price. There again, I negotiated from 25,000 down to 20,000, and depends on what are you getting for that price, and you can narrow the price down per square meter. And we're on the metric system here, so pretty much everything is per square meter. I am presently paying 20,000 pesos a month for 40 square meters. About 3 of that is out on the balcony. Very nice, good-sized balcony. And so that averages out to 500 pesos per square meter. The first place I thought I got, I was only going to spend 10,000. I ended up spending closer, a little over 12,000 by the time I paid the association dues that I had to pay there. And because it was 19 square meters, it actually came out to about 637 pesos per square meter. Now I'm talking generally longer term leases. You know, if you're going to lease something for a couple weeks or a month or two, you're generally going to pay a higher rate if you go through Airbnb or the different booking sites. And also depends upon whether the unit is furnished. And I will, as I've said before, fully furnished means many different things to many different people. And you think you're getting something fully furnished, and you might not. A friend of mine just moved into a place, there's not a microwave, very small rice cooker. A couple words of warning also. Number one, a lot of places, or some places anyway, will use wide-angle cameras. So their apartments, their condominiums, their houses look much bigger. The rooms look much bigger than they actually are. And it's a bit of a shock. It was for me when I first came in and started seeing how small many of the condominiums and apartments were. pretty much anything built in the last 7, 8, 9 years, they've downsized, and where you might maybe you would used to get a studio for 36 or 40 square meters. Most of them are now the studios are now about 22 square meters, which is not very large at all, and can get a bit cramped in there. I've lived in 3 of them here, and two one bedrooms as well. Uh, but be aware of that. Again, furnishings. It's nice to get a list of what is furnished, because what you think you're going to get when you hear fully furnished might not be the case. I've been in a couple places that had one pan and a couple other utensils, and they were rusty. They weren't things that I was going to use. I have just been reminded about the noise factor too. I've got construction going on pretty close to me, and they're grinding now, and part of the day they will be banging. I think they're trying to take up tile off the floor. Every place that I have lived has had construction going on enough that I could hear, even if it's 3 or 4 floors above me or below me, and banging to tear up. The hammering to tear up tiles or whatever they're doing, remodeling. Uh, so if you're near a construction site, or if you're ask them if there's any construction going on. That may be a factor. It's almost impossible to get away from some of that. Um, if you're looking for a pool and or gym, there again, many of the gyms that I've been to have not been maintained very well. I've talked to 2 people recently that have joined clubs here. 2 different clubs, 2 major clubs that are worldwide, and they both told me the equipment was not maintained well. There were several pieces of equipment that were off to the side, were not working. The hand grips were real sticky. They weren't being cleaned properly. So you might want to check those types of things out also. Another thing to be aware of, to be warned of, is that it's very easy for sites to copy and paste listings. So you could get scammed. Be very careful before you send money off, give credit card information to somebody, because there are cases where people have been scammed, and you've rented something online, and you show up and nobody's there, or even somebody meets you at the door and takes your money and leaves, and perhaps they have opened the door, broken into the place, and walk away with your cash, and they have no right to be renting out properties. Or worse is if you send them money online, and there again, it's been they've just copied and pasted that. The average studio in Cebu City, I think, for 22 square meters rents, low end would be about 12,000 square meters, and it would be very sparsely furnished. So you aren't going to get very much, but you can live there. It's got a bed, it's got a shower. You may not have hot water in the shower, something else you might want to inquire about, because a shower without hot water is called a normal shower here. So if they say, oh, you get a normal shower, it means you probably don't have hot water. And this is a small studio here, 22 square meters, had 10 square meter, a little garden unit, balcony out there. But this is oftentimes how you get it. You get a little television. You may or may not get cable. You may or may not get internet, if that's included. Of course, I've seen the prices for studios go anywhere from about 12,000 pesos per month, which would average out to be 545 pesos per square meter, up to about 20 or even 22,000 per square meter. But 20,000 per square meter for a studio would be more likely, and 20,000 for that 22 square meters would be 909 pesos per square meter. And as you go on the different booking sites, the different rental sites, uh, you can start doing the math. And I have looked at condominiums in certain areas, and I've been surprised that they've only come up to like 250, 260 pesos per square meter. Well, that's pretty low end. And there has to be some reason for that. Either the demand in that area, it's an older building, the demand in the area isn't very high, it's not furnished very well. You want to find out a little more of the details. And this particular place here I'm showing you, it's a one bedroom in Persimmon, which I actually liked. Was probably the quietest place that I've lived here in the area. Probably would have rented back there again, but the people never got back to me. And this was owned by an Australian guy, as a matter of fact, and he was looking to sell that. Not sure if he has or not. Very nice, 42 square meters, I believe. Well laid out, well furnished. This place here is Sun Vida. Right across the street over there is SM Mall, Cebu City. And these people, Sun Kai Land, they're building another condo and condominium right next door where the offices were there. They're building another one, and they are pre-selling units here now as well. And this is a little look at, I think this is the same studio layout they had for Sun Vida. They also have for the other one. I know many expats who have lived just outside of town a ways to the north, Consolation, the different towns up there, Danao, or down south, get down to Talisay City and Karkar. And if you don't need to be coming into town on a regular basis, there's no problem with that. They all have smaller malls and things to do. You're going north, you have different beaches along the way, things to do. Going south as well, you have different areas that have nice beaches. You have mountain areas that you can go up into. So if you don't need the city life, you can save money by renting a house and or condominium apartment out in those areas. In fact, like Talisay, once you get out of the big cities, generally you don't have the high-rise condominiums to choose from. You'll have some apartment buildings. But anyway, don't be afraid to negotiate a little bit, and it's easier said than done oftentimes. But suggest that, well, you're not really, you like it, but you like the area, but the furnishings aren't that great, or you can offer them a longer lease than what they're used to getting. I have seen places and heard of expats renting places for even within the city for 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, and they're usually pretty sparsely furnished, older furnishings, in a Filipino neighborhood, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you just understand that you're immersing yourself in the culture, which can be a big plus, and get to know your neighbors, and they also get to know you and everything that you do. I've lived in small towns in the U.S., so I know how that is. Small town of 1,000, 2,000. Everybody knows a lot about you the day after you're moved in. And I remember going to small town bank and starting to give my information. The lady said, "We know who you are. We know all about you." So that kind of was an eye opener. Anyway, most of you know that I've done dozens and dozens of reviews of condominiums and a few housing subdivisions in the Philippines. So you can access that through one of my playlists. And I also do cost of living videos over the last 3 years or so. And sometimes I average out 4 months at a time. So you get a little bit of an average, because I tend to buy big bunches of stuff and it'll last me 2 or 3 or 4 months, some of that stuff. Anyway, I check out my playlists, and there's lots of information about moving to the Philippines, about cost of living, about different types of condominiums, and some resorts, some travel, and some fun videos on the back of motorbikes and rentals of bikes. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe. Safe travels to you all wherever you're at, and I'll see you next time.